The moment you step onto this land, you realize it is unlike anywhere else on Earth. A continent of extremes where deserts stretch endlessly, oceans shimmer with secrets, and ancient stories whisper through rocks older than civilization itself. Australia is not just a destination. It is a challenge, a revelation, a journey that will stretch your senses, test your courage, and ignite a sense of wonder unlike anything you've ever known. From the scorching red heart of the Outback to the lush, untamed wilderness of the top end. From the untamed southern coastlines, shaped by relentless waves and wind, to the glowing reefs beneath crystalline waters. From cities alive with culture, diversity, and creativity to islands, where life survives against impossible odds. This is a land of contrasts, extremes, and surprises. Most people see only the surface. The beaches, the photos, the tourist guides. But what we are about to explore is something deeper, hidden, untamed, and breathtaking. These are the Australia most travelers never discover. A world where every moment feels alive, every landscape tells a story, and every experience changes the way you see life itself. Prepare to journey into the unknown, to uncover secrets of survival, endurance, and the extraordinary beauty of a continent that refuses to be ordinary. This is Australia like you've never seen it before. Welcome to the real Australia. Most people think they know Australia. They picture bright beaches, friendly cities, and kangaroos hopping across open fields. But what if I told you that the Australia the world knows is only a sliver of what truly exists? Hidden behind the postcards, beyond the tourist routes and the famous icons, lies a land far more mysterious, ancient, wild, and untouched than most travelers will ever see. This is the Australia that doesn't show up in brochures. The Australia that whispers instead of shouts. The Australia that reveals itself only to those who dare to look deeper. Here, the earth feels older. The sky stretches wider. The silence is louder than crowds. This is where time moves differently, where landscapes shaped by fire, wind, and water for millions of years remain nearly untouched by human hands. In this chapter, we begin not with beaches or tourists, but with something far more profound. The raw, honest, unfiltered Australia that lives beyond the edges of comfort and expectation. Travel inland, just past where the highways end, and the phone signal disappears. The air changes first dry, warm, almost ancient. The horizon becomes a vast, open canvas, painted in reds and golds. Every direction feels infinite, and every step takes you deeper into a world that seems untouched by the modern age. This is the gateway to Australia's true heart, the landscapes that tell stories older than civilization itself. Out here, the land speaks. The wind carries secrets. The rocks hold memories of creatures that roamed long before humans walked the earth. You feel it before you. Understand it, a sense of timelessness, of something sacred woven into the soil. Travelers who venture this far often describe a strange, quiet transformation. The noise of everyday life fades, the rush of time slows, and suddenly, the world feels bigger, older, and more mysterious than ever before. Driving through remote regions, you'll notice something unique: the absence of people. Hours pass without passing another car. Roads become narrow ribbons, stretching into infinity. Kangaroos stand motionless in the distance, watching with cautious curiosity. Emus move like shadows across the plains. Even the sky feels alive, clouds drifting with purpose, sunlight dancing across the earth in shifting patterns. This is the Australia most people never see, because it requires patience, respect, and a willingness to step outside the boundaries of the familiar. It isn't the Australia of instant convenience. It's the Australia of endurance, shaped by elements far stronger than humans. Nature rules here, and it teaches you humility. And yet, this vast emptiness is not empty at all. Look closer. You'll notice small bursts of color, wildflowers blooming in impossible places, tiny reptiles darting across crimson sand, birds weaving patterns in the sky. The silence isn't silence. It's the hum of life existing in perfect balance with its environment. Every sound, every movement, every shift in the wind carries meaning. This chapter isn't about adventure in the traditional sense. It's about awakening, about realizing that Australia is more than beaches and modern skylines. It's a continent with a pulse, a spirit, a story older than anything written in history books. It's about acknowledging that the land itself is alive, holding memories of fires, floods, migrations, and ancient cultures that walked these plains long before the world knew Australia existed. As the sun begins to set, the transformation is breathtaking. The sky erupts into colors that seem almost impossible: deep purples, fierce oranges, burning reds that make the entire horizon glow like a living flame. Shadows lengthen across the ground. Temperatures drop. The world becomes quiet, almost reverent, as if preparing for a sacred ritual. And then, darkness pure, star-filled darkness, untouched by city lights. This is the real Australia. Not the one in travel ads, but the one that breathes beneath them. The one that reveals itself slowly, patiently, only to those who seek it with open eyes. And as night blankets the land, you realize something extraordinary. This unseen Australia is not just a place to visit. It's a place that changes the way you see everything. This is where our journey begins, not with the familiar, but with the unknown. Not with comfort, but with truth. The real Australia awaits. Something happens when you step into the Outback. It's not a place you simply visit, it's a world that swallows you whole. At first, it feels almost empty, a vast silence stretching farther than sight itself. But keep watching, keep listening, because in that silence lies a pulse, ancient and powerful, older than anything you've ever known. This is the red heart of Australia, a place where the land speaks, if you're willing to hear. As the sun climbs into the sky, the desert glows in shades of rust, gold, and burnt orange. Heat rises from the ground in shimmering waves, distorting the horizon like a mirage. And maybe that's how the Outback has survived for so long, by convincing outsiders that nothing is here. But everything is here. History is written into the cliffs, legends carved into the rocks, and life clings to the smallest pockets of shade like fragile jewels hidden from the world. Travel deeper, and you reach Uluru, rising like a silent giant in the heart of the continent. No photograph ever truly captures its scale. It's not just a rock, it's a monument shaped by time and storm, a sandstone elder standing watch over the desert. As the light shifts, its colors transform. It bleeds red at sunrise, burns copper at noon, and glows deep purple when the sun sinks behind the dunes. Standing at its base, you can feel vibrations under your feet, as if the land itself remembers every era it has survived. Nearby lies Kata Chuta, its domes rounded and worn, like the backs of ancient creatures sleeping beneath the sky. The wind snakes through the valleys here, whispering secrets passed down through thousands of years. You feel small, almost insignificant, yet somehow more alive than ever. But the Outback's power does not lie in its stillness alone. Its stories are etched into the ground, dry riverbeds that flood into raging currents overnight, winds that carve stone into impossible shapes, lightning storms that crack the sky open with electric fury. Even the wildlife has learned to adapt to extremes. Kangaroos move with careful efficiency, conserving every ounce of energy. Reptiles bury themselves under rocks to escape the brutal sun. Birds trace silent arcs overhead, searching for the slightest shimmer of water. The Outback tests you. It strips away noise, distractions, and everything unnecessary. Travelers often describe a strange feeling of being exposed not just physically but internally. Out here, there is nowhere to hide, not even from yourself. Maybe that's why so many people arrive expecting adventure and leave feeling transformed. The desert doesn't change, but you will. As night falls, the temperature collapses. The sky becomes a black ocean pierced by billions of stars. Without city lights, the universe reveals itself in overwhelming detail. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens like a luminous river, and for a moment, you understand why ancient cultures looked upward for answers. Out here, the night sky becomes a map, a storybook, a reminder of how small we are in a world far older than our imagination can grasp. The Outback is not merely a place to explore, it's a journey into Earth's memory. Every grain of sand has been shaped by time, pressure, heat, and wind. Every rock holds a story written long before humans arrived. And every step you take reminds you that wilderness still exists in its purest form, untouched and unforgiving. When you finally leave the Red Heart, something follows you. Not fear, not awe, but a quiet humility. The sense that the world is far larger, deeper, and more mysterious than the one we thought we knew. And as you look back at that endless desert, glowing under the last light of day, you realize the truth. The Outback doesn't stay behind. It stays within you. There are places in Australia where time doesn't just slow down, it feels like it turns backward. Where every stone, every tree, every gust of wind carries a memory older than civilizations. And when you enter these lands, you feel something shift inside you. It's subtle at first, like a whisper brushing past your ear. Then it grows stronger, deeper, until you realize these are not just landscapes. These are living stories. This is Aboriginal Australia, one of the oldest continuous cultures on Earth. The air itself feels different here. Lighter, yet heavier with meaning. You walk across red earth that has been shaped not by machines, but by generations of footsteps. For over 65,000 years, Aboriginal peoples have lived in harmony with this land, not as conquerors, not as owners, but as guardians. To them, the world is not divided into what is alive and what is not. Everything lives. The mountains, the rivers, the sky, the soil, even the silence has a spirit. Travel through Arnhem Land, and you begin to sense a kind of spiritual gravity that draws you deeper into connection. Ancient rock shelters reveal paintings that stretch back thousands of years. Kangaroos with elongated limbs, hunters with spears, spirits with radiating halos. These images are not meant to be static artwork. They are part of the dreaming, a vast web of stories that explains creation, law, identity, and the meaning of life itself. The dreaming isn't just the past, it's the eternal present, a continuous thread linking ancestors to the living, and the living to the land. Sit with an elder around a crackling fire, and they may share a story not simply to entertain, but to teach. Stories about how the stars were placed in the sky, how animals learn their traits, how rivers carve their paths. Each tale carries wisdom: how to survive, how to respect nature, how to walk gently through the world. Their voices carry an ancient cadence, one shaped by the rhythm of the wind, the movement of the tides, and the beating heart of the desert. You realize quickly that Aboriginal knowledge is not primitive. It is precise, sophisticated, extraordinary. The land itself is a library, and every hill or waterhole is a chapter in their encyclopedia. They can find water where others see only dust. They can track animals across barren terrain as easily as we read a map. They know which plants heal and which harm, which seasons bring storms, which bring fire, and which bring renewal. This deep understanding is woven into their art, too. Dots, lines, spirals, patterns that represent journeys, gatherings, landscapes, seen from above, like maps coated with meaning. Traditional dances echo the movements of animals and spirits, telling stories without a single spoken word. Music rises from instruments made from the earth itself, the didgeridoo humming with vibrations that seem to echo straight from the planet's core. But perhaps the most profound lesson Aboriginal culture offers is connection. In their worldview, nothing exists in isolation. A person is connected to their family, to their ancestors, to their country, and to the wider community of life. Take one part away, and the whole system trembles. It's a perspective modern society often forgets, yet desperately needs. Here, in these sacred lands, you begin to understand the true meaning of belonging, not as ownership, but as relationship. You are part of the land, and the land is part of you. And when you finally step away, you carry something with you. A quiet reverence, a new way of seeing. Aboriginal Australia is not a relic of the past. It is a vibrant, living culture. A reminder that wisdom doesn't always wear the clothes of technology or modernity. Sometimes it walks barefoot across red earth, guided by stars, carrying stories that have survived longer than empires. And as you leave these ancient, echoing landscapes, one truth stays with you. To understand Australia, you must understand its first peoples. Their stories are not just history, they are the heartbeat of the continent. The moment you cross into Australia's far north, the air itself changes. It thickens, warms, and wraps around you like a living thing. The sky becomes a deeper blue, the land brighter, wilder, untamed. And almost instantly, you sense that you've entered a frontier where nature still makes the rules. This is the top end, a kingdom of monsoons, crocodiles, and ancient landscapes that feel closer to another world than to anything familiar. Most travelers never set foot here, but those who do never forget it. The day begins with a heat so intense it feels like the sun is sitting just above the treetops. Humidity gathers on your skin within seconds. The horizon shimmers. The air buzzes. And beneath that buzzing lies the heartbeat of the wilderness, raw, powerful, and unpredictable. This place doesn't hide its dangers. Saltwater crocodiles glide silently through murky billabongs, their ancient eyes breaking the surface just long enough to remind you who the real rulers are. These creatures have survived unchanged for millions of years. They are not relics, they are living proof of nature's perfection. You approach the water carefully, knowing that in the north, every shadow could be watching you. Locals will tell you, respect the crocs, and they'll let you pass. Forget that rule, and the land will correct you without hesitation. But even with the risk, there's something mesmerizing about seeing one of these giants up close. Their stillness is almost hypnotic. A reminder that survival doesn't always require movement sometimes. It's the patience of a predator that shapes an entire ecosystem. As you travel deeper, the landscape begins to shift. Wetlands stretch out like vast mirrors reflecting towering clouds. Tall grasses sway in waves, hiding birds, insects, and creatures found nowhere else. Flocks of magpie geese rise suddenly into the air, forming sweeping patterns across the sky. The air fills with the calls of brolgas dancing in the distance, performing rituals as old as the land itself. Then the monsoon arrives, not gently, not gradually, but with explosive force. One moment the sky is blue and burning. The next, thunder cracks open the heavens. Sheets of rain descend like a curtain, pounding the earth with unstoppable energy. Water rushes across the plains, turning dry creeks into roaring rivers within minutes. Lightning splits the sky, illuminating the landscape in stark, blinding flashes. It feels less like weather and more like a performance nature showing its raw power, unedited, unrestrained. But in the chaos, life thrives. Freshwater turtles emerge to feed. Fish begin their migrations. Birds feast on the sudden abundance. And the land, so dry and harsh during the long dry season, drinks every drop greedily. The monsoon is not a storm, it is a rebirth. When the skies clear and the air cools, something else reveals itself. The ancient rock country of Kakadu. Massive stone escarpments rise from the earth, like monuments left behind by forgotten giants. These rocks hold secrets, shelters, where indigenous people painted their stories thousands of years ago. Some of these artworks show spirits with elongated limbs and large, watching eyes. Others depict hunters, animals, and everyday life. Standing before them, you feel time blur, as if the past and present exist side by side. But the North has stories that aren't written in rock. They're carried by the wind, whispered by rivers, guarded by the crocodiles who patrol the waters. This place demands respect, patience, and humility. It rewards those who listen and punishes those who underestimate it. As the sun sets, the world transforms once more. The sky ignites in shades of gold, crimson, and violet. Bats sweep overhead in great dark waves. The air cools, but the sounds of nighttime creatures rise, the chirping of insects, the distant roar of a waterfall, the low rumble of thunder waiting just beyond the horizon. The top end doesn't just show you nature, it shows you power, resilience, the delicate balance between life and destruction. And as you stand there, surrounded by the breath of a land both ancient and alive, you realize something undeniable. This is a place that refuses to be tamed. The North is not for the faint-hearted, but for those willing to embrace its wildness. It reveals a truth that most of the world has forgotten. The planet is far more alive, more intense, and more mysterious than we dare to imagine. There's a moment on Australia's southern edge when the world suddenly feels bigger. The wind sharpens, the waves grow louder, and the horizon stretches so far it feels almost impossible. Most travelers only see the polished postcards, Sydney, Melbourne, famous beaches, but beyond the cities lies a coastline shaped by storms, shipwrecks, and time. A place where cliffs fall into raging seas, where tiny towns cling stubbornly to life, and where beauty exists, not in perfection, but in rawness. This is the southern frontier, one of the least understood, most breathtaking corners of Australia. Your journey begins with the wind. It hits you before anything else, racing in from the Southern Ocean with a force that feels almost sentient. This is not a gentle breeze. It's the wind that once pushed wooden ships off course, the wind that carved limestone into towering cliffs, the wind that reminds you that Antarctica is not so far away. It carries the scent of salt, storms, and distant ice. And as you breathe it in, you feel the wildness of this place settle into your bones. Travel along the coast, and the landscape begins to tell its story. Sheer cliffs rise abruptly from the earth, their faces lined with layers of ancient sediment. Waves crash against them with relentless fury, sculpting arches, caves, and pillars that look almost unreal. The Great Ocean Road, carved by returned soldiers nearly a century ago, winds along these edges, sometimes hugging the sea so closely you can taste the spray, other times climbing high enough to make your stomach drop. Standing before formations like the 12 Apostles, you understand why travelers fall silent here. Giant limestone towers emerge from the waves like natural cathedrals, glowing gold in the late afternoon sun. They look eternal, but they're not. The sea claims them one by one, carving, reshaping, collapsing. Each pillar is a snapshot of time in motion, a reminder that even the strongest things eventually yield to nature. Move inland, and the drama softens. Rolling hills appear, dotted with quiet farms and towns so small you can walk across them in minutes. Here, life moves at a pace that feels decades behind the rest of the world. Locals sip coffee in corner cafes, fishermen mend nets by the docks, and the sound of the ocean hums constantly in the background. These communities have survived storms, isolation, and the unpredictability of the sea. They don't boast, they endure. But venture farther, and the coast changes again. In South Australia, cliffs give way to long, empty beaches so untouched they look like they belong on another planet. The sand stretches for miles without a single footprint. The water moves with hypnotic calmness, changing from deep navy to turquoise so clear you can see rays gliding beneath the surface. Sometimes you feel as if you're the last person on Earth, standing on the edge of a land both desolate and breathtaking. Then there are the islands, Kangaroo Island, Tasmania, places where wilderness dominates everything. Here, wildlife moves freely. Sea lions sprawl across sunlit rocks. Wallabies hop along forest trails. Birds circle overhead in great swirling patterns. These are refuges for species found nowhere else, safe havens from the pressures of the mainland. But even here, life is not easy. Fires have torn through forests. Storms have reshaped beaches. Yet nature rebuilds relentlessly, proving again and again that renewal is in its very DNA. And beneath all this beauty lies a deeper story, one of shipwrecks, crossed oceans, and dangerous voyages. Along this southern coastline rest the skeletons of vessels that never made it home. Their broken forms are swallowed by the sea, but their legends remain, carried in the whispers of fishermen and in the warnings etched into maritime charts. As the sun lowers, casting long shadows across the cliffs, the coast transforms once more. The sky turns pink, then orange, then deep red. The waves soften, the wind calms, and a quiet peace settles over the world. But even in this moment of stillness, you sense the power beneath the surface, the ancient pulse of a land shaped by crash and calm, destruction and rebirth. The southern coastline is not gentle, it is not soft, but it is honest. It reveals the truth of nature, its beauty, its danger, its unyielding force. And as you stand at the edge of the continent, watching the last light disappear into the ocean, you realize this is a place that stays with you. It teaches you not through comfort, but through awe. This is the South, harsh, wild, unforgettable. The ocean around Australia holds a secret most travelers never uncover. They come searching for the famous postcard, the Great Barrier Reef. Bright, crowded, photographed a million times. But beyond that glittering icon lies a different world. A deeper, quieter, wilder underwater realm that only reveals itself to those willing to journey further. This isn't the Australia you see in brochures. This is the one hidden beneath the waves, untouched, unpredictable, and alive in ways that feel almost otherworldly. The descent begins slowly. Light filters down through the surface in shimmering beams, painting the water in blues so hypnotic they seem unreal. At first, you hear only your breath, steady, rhythmic, strangely comforting. But then, as your eyes adjust, shapes begin to emerge. Shadows move like drifting ghosts. Colors pulse and shift. And suddenly, the underwater world opens itself to you, revealing a universe that has existed for millions of years, quietly thriving beyond human reach. Coral gardens stretch in every direction, untouched by crowds. But these aren't the neat, manicured scenes tourists expect. These reefs are wild, rugged, shaped by storms and tides. Massive bommies rise from the seafloor like ancient temples. Branching corals grow in tangled labyrinths. Soft corals sway gently, painting the water with purples, pinks, and deep blues. Tiny fish dart between the crevices, flashing metallic colors that gleam under the filtered sunlight. Then the larger creatures appear, moving with the grace of planets drifting through space. A manta ray glides above you, its wings spanning wider than a car. Its movements are slow, deliberate, almost poetic. It doesn't fear you. It simply exists, unbothered, as if inviting you into its domain. And for a moment, you forget entirely that you're a visitor here. Travel farther along the reef, and the silence becomes its own language. Schools of fish move as one, shifting colors and direction in perfect synchronization. Green sea turtles drift with effortless calm, rising occasionally for air before sinking back into the deep. Sharks patrol the edges of the reef, not the monsters of legend, but elegant guardians of balance. Their presence is powerful, but not threatening. Here, everything has its place, and every creature plays its role. But the most astonishing worlds lie even deeper, far beyond the sunlight. Cold water canyons, underwater cliffs, and forgotten reefs form landscapes as dramatic as anything on land. Strange creatures live here, bioluminescent, translucent, armored, alien. Octopuses that change shape in an instant. Jellyfish that glow in swirling ribbons of light. Fish that have evolved in complete darkness, navigating by instinct and vibration rather than sight. These hidden ecosystems don't make headlines. They aren't photographed by millions. Yet they are the beating heart of Australia's oceans, fragile, complex, and vital. And they carry their own stories of survival. Cyclones tear through these waters, reshaping the seafloor. Changing temperatures challenge species that have lived unchanged for centuries. But the reefs endure, adapting, rebuilding, fighting for life in a world that often forgets they exist. Near remote islands along Australia's northern and western coasts, you find something even rarer: coral ecosystems untouched by human hands. Here, the water is so clear you can see the bottom from the surface. The only sounds are the crackling of distant reefs and the calls of seabirds circling overhead. Dugongs graze on seagrass meadows. Dolphins leap through glowing blue water at dusk. Humpback whales pass through on ancient migration routes, singing songs that travel for miles beneath the waves. Their voices are deep, haunting, almost sacred. Hearing one feels like listening to the memory of the ocean itself. At night, the sea transforms again. Bioluminescent plankton swirl around your fingers like stardust. The water glows with every movement, turning each wave into a ripple of light. It feels like drifting through the universe, suspended between stars and sea. And then, as you rise back to the surface, breaking into open air once more, the contrast is startling. Waves lap against the shore. Wind brushes across your skin. Birds soar against the sky. The world above feels familiar again. Yet you know what lies beneath an entire realm hidden from most of humanity. Australia's underwater world is not just beautiful, it is humbling. It reminds you that life thrives in places we rarely think about, in ways we barely understand. And as you stare out across the vast expanse of ocean, one truth becomes clear. The real secrets of this continent are not only found on land, they are written in the silent, shifting currents of the deep. At first glance, Australia's cities look like any other modern skyline: glass towers, busy streets, lights that sparkle after dark. But look closer, and you'll find something different. A hidden layer of stories, struggles, dreams, and contradictions. A side of urban Australia that never makes it into glossy travel guides. Because behind every shining harbor and every buzzing cafe lies a world shaped by migrants, artists, workers, and wanderers, all building a life on one of the most isolated continents on Earth. This is the Australia most travelers never see, the human one. The day begins in Sydney, far away from the polished postcards. Not at the Opera House or the Harbour Bridge, but in the early morning suburbs where life actually happens. Streets fill with the aroma of coffee, fresh bread, and the soft chatter of dozens of languages. Filipinos open bakeries before sunrise. Lebanese families prepare pastries in corner shops. Indian markets roll up their shutters, filling the air with the scent of spices. In these neighborhoods, Australia feels less like a distant Western nation and more like a vibrant, shifting tapestry woven from every culture on the planet. Yet, even here, the city reveals its layers. Beyond the morning calm lies the relentless rhythm of the day. Crowded trains, rushing footsteps, the hum of construction echoing across glass towers. People move quickly, driven not by tradition, but by ambition. Australia's cities are young compared to the rest of the world. They grow fast, change fast, and demand the same from those who call them home. Walk deeper into the urban maze, and you find voices, stories echoing through alleyways and across parks. A street artist paints murals on an abandoned wall, turning concrete into color. A musician performs under a railway bridge, his guitar blending with the vibration of passing trains. Students gather in cafes, debating ideas that could shape the future. Here, creativity thrives, not because it's encouraged, but because it refuses to be silenced. But there's another side to this urban story. Quieter, heavier, shaped by the cost of modern life. In the shadows of the high-rises, you meet people battling loneliness, displacement, and the pressure to keep up in a world that moves too quickly. Homelessness hides beneath blankets at train stations. Migrants work long hours in kitchens and warehouses, building dreams brick by brick. Life in the cities isn't always easy, but what makes it incredible is how people endure and how they lift one another up. In Melbourne, the streets reveal a different heartbeat. Here, hidden laneways burst with heartbeat, street art, tiny cafes, and jazz bars where time melts away. Every wall tells a story, rebellion, expression, identity. People gather in bookstores, rooftop cinemas, late-night trams. There is a quiet intelligence to this city, a sense that creativity is not an escape, but a necessity. And yet, beyond the artistic glow, you find the same complexities. Diverse communities, carving out space in a rapidly changing urban landscape. In Perth, the world slows down, shaped by the silence of vast distances. The city stands alone, facing the Indian Ocean like a frontier outpost. Life here is calm but determined. Mining workers fly in and out from remote desert towns. Young people gather along the river at sunset, their laughter carried by the sea breeze. It feels like a city suspended between isolation and opportunity. In Brisbane, heat radiates off the pavement, and the river winds like a living vein through the city's heart. Floods have shaped this place, tested it, broken it, and every time, the people rebuild with defiance. Markets fill the weekends, music fills the nights, and as temperatures climb, so does the energy. But perhaps the most meaningful stories come not from the famous landmarks, but from quiet moments. A bus driver greeting every passenger with a smile. A group of teenagers practicing dance routines under a bridge. Elders gathering in community centers to pass on traditions. Families sharing meals in crowded apartments far from the countries they once called home. The real Australia is not found in beaches or skyscrapers. It's found in the lives being built between them, in the resilience of those who arrived with nothing but hope, in the artists who give voice to everything the city tries to hide, in the workers who keep the lights burning, the trains running, the streets alive, in the young people shaping a future more diverse, more open, more human than ever before. When night finally settles over the skyline, the city transforms again. Lights flicker across tall buildings, streets buzz with late-night energy. But beneath the noise, a quiet truth hums steadily. Cities are not defined by their architecture. They are defined by their people. And in Australia, those people are the heart of everything. What if I told you there was a single moment, a breath of time, when humanity collectively looked up, froze in disbelief, and realized that everything we assumed about survival, destiny, and human endurance was wrong? Because in this chapter, we enter the hour when every system failed, every prediction collapsed, and history bent in a direction no one was prepared for. There is a rare silence that falls before catastrophe, a silence so complete that even memory struggles to hold it. On that day, the world wasn't just watching. It was suspended, trapped between fear and awe. Every radio frequency, every newsroom, every satellite camera locked onto the same unfolding reality, a story that moved faster than reason, a story no one was ready to believe. The chain of events began with a message brief, cryptic, almost unbelievable. It traveled through emergency channels in under a second, but its impact would last generations. At first, analysts dismissed it as a system glitch, but when the second alert hit, followed by the third, and then a cascade of confirmations, an uncomfortable truth became impossible to ignore. Something was happening, something unprecedented, something potentially catastrophic. Across the globe, command centers scrambled. Experts swarmed over data screens, glowing red with warnings. Communications operators barked orders. And amid the chaos, one chilling realization emerged. The event unfolding was not theoretical. It was real, measurable, and dangerously close. And then it happened. The moment the world stood still. For the first time in modern history, traffic ground to a halt across entire cities. Planes froze in holding patterns. Stock exchanges paused mid-trade. People abandoned conversations in mid-sentence, eyes wide, lungs locked, as if the universe itself had pressed its finger to humanity's lips, because what appeared next defied every expectation. It began, faintly, an anomaly, flickering across high-precision instruments, but within seconds, it grew into something unmistakable, undeniable, and terrifyingly clear. Scientists stared as new measurements poured in with values no human had ever seen before. Everything was shifting: pressure, temperature, electromagnetic fields, even atmospheric density. It felt as though the planet itself had taken a sudden, deliberate breath. Crowds gathered in the streets. Phones trembled in trembling hands. Children clung to their parents. And in every corner of the globe, people whispered the same question: is this it? But survival stories don't hinge on despair. They hinge on what people do when despair shows up. Some ran, some cried, some prayed, but a few, those rare, unbreakable individuals, did the opposite. They became still, focused, calculated. Leaders, scientists, explorers, the nameless, the forgotten, ordinary people forced into extraordinary clarity. Because when everything stands still, decisions suddenly matter more. As the phenomenon intensified, global systems began collapsing one by one. Power grids overloaded. Satellites drifted out of alignment. Ocean sensors malfunctioned. Even the magnetic field readings glitched in ways no computer could decode. Every hour introduced a new mystery, a new threat, a new impossibility. And yet, in the heart of the chaos, something extraordinary emerged. Unity. Borders didn't matter. Politics didn't matter. Rivalries dissolved like sand in water. Humanity fractured, complicated, imperfect, suddenly moved as one. Engineers in Tokyo shared raw data with researchers in Berlin. Astronomers in Chile live-streamed measurements to emergency groups in Morocco. Rescue teams from countries that had never spoken worked side by side, because survival has a strange way of revealing who we really are. Then came the turning point, an observation so subtle that it would have been missed if even one sensor had blinked off at the wrong moment. A small change, a shift in the waveform, a pattern emerging from the chaos. And within that pattern, the first hint of understanding. What the world had feared might not be the end. It might be something else entirely. A possibility began to form, fragile as smoke, powerful as revelation. Suddenly, the mystery wasn't just a threat. It was a clue, a message, a key to survival. And as the world watched, breath held, hearts pounding, humanity prepared for whatever would come next. Because this was no longer just a disaster. This was a crossroads, where fear meets fate, where chaos meets meaning. where despair meets the incredible will to endure. Humanity stood frozen in that moment, but not defeated, not shattered, not lost. The world had stood still, but the story was only just beginning, decoding the impossible. What if the greatest threat in human history wasn't a disaster at all, but a message? A message so advanced, so far beyond our understanding, that for days we mistook it for chaos when in reality, it was the most important signal humanity had ever received. When the world froze in silent terror, no one expected the next revelation to come from a dimly lit laboratory operating on backup power, buried beneath layers of concrete and uncertainty. Yeah, that is exactly where the first breakthrough occurred. Inside that lab, a team of exhausted scientists, running on fear, adrenaline, and the last of the emergency rations, stared at a screen displaying data that made no sense. It pulsed, it shifted, it repeated impossible values, orbiting around a central sequence that kept returning, no matter how the chaos around it changed. At first, they thought it was a glitch. Then, they thought it was interference. But finally, someone asked the question no one dared voice. What if this is intentional? That question changed everything. Suddenly, the readings weren't random, they were purposeful, intelligent, designed. The anomaly wasn't just a natural event, it was communicating. And the moment that realization struck, every expert on the planet was pulled into the same invisible orbit. The world, still trembling from the shock of the stillness, began shifting from fear to analysis. International teams formed overnight: physicists, cryptographers, signal engineers, mathematicians, linguists, even historians. Because when the unknown speaks, you don't choose who listens, you let everyone listen. And that's when the impossible became undeniable. There was a pattern, there was structure, there was meaning. The anomaly was a message. At first, it came in fragments, clusters of numbers that seemed to fold into themselves, spiraling into geometric logic no human mind could interpret alone. But as more data arrived, as the signal strengthened, something miraculous happened. Multiple teams across the planet decoded different parts of the same mystery at the same time. It was as if the message was built for humanity, built to be understood not by one country or one culture or one language, but by the collective intelligence of the species. Piece by piece, the message began to take form. At its core was a sequence, simple, elegant, and universal. The fundamental ratios found in the building blocks of life. Ratios that appear in DNA, in the spiraling arms of galaxies, in the expansion of the universe itself. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a countdown. It wasn't even a warning. It was a guide, a blueprint hidden in plain sight, an encoded map showing how the anomaly interacted with energy fields, gravity, and time. A manual describing the physics of survival far beyond anything humanity had ever discovered. And buried deeper within, something even more startling. A second layer of meaning, one that required collaboration between disciplines that had never before intersected. Physicists needed linguists. Linguists needed philosophers. Philosophers needed biologists. Biologists needed engineers. For the first time in history, knowledge wasn't divided, it was unified. This wasn't a puzzle for one mind. This was a puzzle for humanity. As each layer unfolded, the message revealed a truth that shook the foundations of everything we thought we understood. The anomaly wasn't attacking Earth. It wasn't destroying the planet. It was stabilizing it. What humanity had mistaken for a disaster was actually a correction, a recalibration of forces that had drifted dangerously out of balance over thousands of years. Without intervention, the planet would have reached a breaking point, one that no survival story could escape. And then came the revelation that turned fear into awe. This had happened before. Ancient records, scattered through civilizations long gone, suddenly aligned with the decoded data, astronomical observations, carvings, myths of great cycles and celestial resets. They were not fantasies. They were memories, warnings, clues left behind by cultures that had witnessed echoes of the same event. Humanity wasn't experiencing the end. Humanity was experiencing the continuation of a cycle as old as the universe itself. But there was one critical difference. This time, for the first time ever, humanity had the technology to understand it in real time. And understanding meant opportunity. The final component of the message was the most extraordinary of all. It described a narrow window, an alignment lasting mere days when actions taken by humanity could influence the outcome of the cycle. Not to stop it, but to guide it, to stabilize it, to redirect its power into something that could both protect the planet and accelerate human progress by centuries. A chance not only to survive, but to evolve. Around the world, leaders who had once been overwhelmed by fear now found themselves standing at the threshold of a choice larger than any decision in human history. The question was no longer, how do we stop this? But, what will we do with this opportunity? As the last lines of the message were decoded, a profound silence filled every war room, every control center, every laboratory. Humanity had cracked the impossible. The unknown had become known, and now the future depended on what came next. The countdown had begun not to destruction, but to destiny. Most people never get to see the conclusion of a story that changes everything. Most of us live our lives thinking we are at the center of the universe, blind to the threads that pull reality in directions we cannot predict. But for those who have journeyed across Australia's hidden landscapes, from the deserts of the Outback to the depths of the ocean, from ancient Aboriginal lands to remote islands and bustling cities, one truth becomes clear. This continent is not just a place on a map. It is a teacher, a mirror, and a challenge to the human spirit. As the final chapter of this journey unfolds, we see Australia not as a collection of sites to be ticked off, but as a living, breathing entity. Every rock, every wave, every star-filled sky tells a story of endurance, resilience, and transformation. From the scorching sun of the Red Heart to the monsoons of the Top End, from the rugged southern coastlines to the glowing reefs beneath the waves, the land has shaped the people as much as the people have shaped it. In the Outback, we realize that survival is more than a skill, it is an art. The desert teaches patience, observation, and respect. Uluru and Kata Juta stand as monuments not just to nature, but to the wisdom of those who have called this land home for tens of thousands of years. Their presence reminds us that some lessons are not written in books, but etched into the soil, whispered by the wind, and held in the hearts of those who listen. The Aboriginal lands echo with stories older than empires, carrying the weight of generations. Walking among rock paintings, hearing the stories of elders, one feels a connection that transcends time. These teachings are not just cultural artifacts, they are living knowledge, a blueprint for understanding humanity's place within the natural world. Respect, harmony, and awareness of interconnectedness are lessons that modern society often forgets. But here, they remain vibrant, undeniable, and essential. The northern wilderness shows us that the world is more powerful than we imagine, and that respect for nature is survival. Crocodiles, monsoons, and untouched wetlands reveal a planet in balance, delicate yet relentless. Human ingenuity meets natural force here, teaching humility and awe in equal measure. The southern coastlines, battered by wind and waves, offer a different perspective. That beauty and danger coexist, and that resilience is born from understanding and navigating both. Under the ocean, we discover worlds beyond imagination, proving that life thrives where we least expect it. Coral reefs, Manta rays, sharks, and bioluminescent creatures remind us that the unseen can be more extraordinary than the visible. These underwater realms are delicate and ancient, yet teeming with life, reflecting the resilience and mystery that defines all of Australia. Urban centers, in contrast, show us human resilience, creativity, and diversity. Cities are not merely skylines. They are ecosystems of human experience, stories, and dreams. From quiet suburbs to bustling laneways, from migrant communities to artists and innovators, the real life of the nation exists in the interactions between people, their environment, and the culture they build. Cities, too, are shaped by the land and climate of the continent, and they teach us that connection, adaptation, and community are as vital to survival as any natural resource. As night falls over the continent, a unifying truth emerges. Australia is a land of contrasts, extremes, and transformations. Its deserts, forests, reefs, islands, and cities are not separate. They are chapters of the same story, a story of endurance, adaptation, and discovery. And those who witness it fully, with open hearts and eyes, are forever changed. The land challenges you to see beyond the ordinary, to embrace unpredictability, and to recognize that beauty often emerges where life is toughest. This final chapter is not about concluding a journey, but understanding its meaning. Australia teaches that survival is never passive. It requires courage, observation, respect, and adaptability. It reminds us that the past is alive in the present, that every environment has lessons to impart, and that humanity's place in the world is neither dominant nor guaranteed. To truly experience Australia is to witness life at its rawest, most extraordinary, and most transformative. And as dawn breaks over the continent, casting golden light across deserts, reefs, forests, and cities alike, one realization becomes undeniable. The real Australia is not a destination to see. It is a journey to feel. A journey that changes you from the inside out. A journey that lingers long after you leave its shores, carried forever in memory, spirit, and understanding. The land is alive. The people are alive. And for those willing to seek the hidden, the unseen, and the extraordinary, Australia is not just a country, it is a revelation. But the story of Australia is not only written in its landscapes or its cities, it is written in the quiet resilience of its people. Across deserts, reefs, forests, and islands, ordinary lives carry extraordinary lessons. Farmers battling drought, fishers navigating unpredictable waters, indigenous communities preserving millennia-old traditions, young innovators building solutions for the future, they all reveal a truth few travelers ever see. Survival here is not just about enduring the land, but learning from it. Every challenge, every extreme, every test shapes character, perspective, and understanding. The islands at the edge of the continent, often overlooked, tell this story vividly. Tasmania's misty mountains and dense forests shelter creatures found nowhere else on Earth. Remote coastal outposts guard histories of shipwrecks, migrations, and human endurance. Kangaroo Island, scarred by fire yet teeming with life, shows the power of renewal. Here, life is fragile, yet persistent, proving that even in the harshest conditions, adaptation and resilience are possible. Observing these islands teaches that survival is never passive. It is active, deliberate, and requires harmony with the forces around you. At night, the continent becomes a theater of cosmic wonder. Star-filled skies stretch endlessly, untouched by city light in many regions. The Milky Way arches overhead, rivers of silver connecting desert plains to mountain ranges, reminding humanity of its smallness against the scale of the universe. Aboriginal constellations illuminate ancient stories, guiding those who pay attention to the lessons embedded in the stars. In these moments, travelers feel both awe and humility. understanding that while humans leave their mark, they are also only temporary guests in a much larger story. But Australia is not static. It is a living laboratory of life and change. Fires sweep through forests, destroying but also revitalizing. Monsoons flood rivers, reshaping landscapes. Waves crash relentlessly on southern cliffs, carving new shapes over decades. Coral reefs, while vulnerable, regenerate and adapt. The continent teaches that transformation is inevitable, and survival depends on learning to embrace it rather than resist it. Even its wildlife carries lessons for the observer. Kangaroos navigate harsh terrain with economy and grace. Wedge-tailed eagles soar across immense skies with effortless mastery. Sea turtles trace migrations known for millennia. Each species adapts, thrives, and persists in the face of relentless challenge. Observing them, one understands that resilience is an art, crafted in both patience and precision. And then there is the human element. The cities, towns, and communities that pulse with modern life, yet remain inseparably tied to the land. In bustling markets, local artists transform streets into galleries. In quiet cafes, generations of migrants build identities across oceans and continents. In coastal villages, fishers understand tides, winds, and currents as intimately as any indigenous elder. Cities, like the land itself, teach lessons of adaptation, endurance, and coexistence. They are living proof that survival is not only about strength, it is also about ingenuity, empathy, and connection. As the final hours of this journey unfold, the continent seems to whisper a final message. Life is precious, unpredictable, and beautiful in its imperfection. Australia is both a crucible and a sanctuary. It challenges you to confront extremes, teaches you to respect the invisible rhythms of nature, and rewards those who open their hearts with an understanding of scale, patience, and wonder. The real Australia is not defined by what is famous, visible, or convenient. It is defined by what endures the ancient landscapes, the oceans, the skies, the animals, the people, and the stories that have survived millennia. Those who seek it find more than sights. They find a mirror reflecting their own capacity for resilience, adaptation, and awe. And when you finally leave, stepping back into familiar landscapes, you carry Australia with you, not just in photographs or souvenirs, but in spirit. Its deserts, reefs, forests, islands, and cities leave traces on your mind and heart, forever changing how you view nature, humanity, and your place in the world. Australia does not reveal itself easily. It does not offer comfort, only truth. It does not wait, only endures. And for those willing to see beyond the surface, beyond the ordinary, it offers the greatest gift of all: perspective, wonder, and a reminder that life, wild, unrelenting, beautiful, is meant to be experienced fully. This is the real Australia. Endless, ancient, alive. A land that challenges, teaches, and transforms anyone who dares to explore its depths. As the journey draws to a close, the true Australia begins to reveal itself, not in photos, not in guides, not in the familiar images we've seen 1,000 times, but in the quiet moments, the hidden places, and the extraordinary resilience of life itself. The deserts, the reefs, the forests, the islands, the cities, they all tell a story of survival, adaptation, and wonder. You've witnessed landscapes older than humanity, oceans teeming with life, skies lit by stars untouched by city lights, and communities building futures on a land both harsh and breathtakingly beautiful. You've seen that resilience is not just about enduring hardship, it's about learning from it, respecting it, and embracing it. Australia is not a destination to be conquered. It is a continent to be understood. Its lessons are subtle, its challenges immense, and its rewards immeasurable. Every river, cliff, and reef whispers the same truth. Life is fragile, fleeting, and yet astonishingly powerful. And when you carry this land in your memory, you carry more than images. You carry perspective, humility, and a deep, enduring sense of awe. So as the sun sets over the Outback, the waves crash along the southern coast, and the stars rise over the top end, remember this: the real Australia is alive, ancient, unforgiving, beautiful, and it will stay with you long after you leave its shores. This is Australia, the land most never truly discover. And now, you have seen it. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed exploring Prague as much as I enjoyed guiding you through it. If you found this travel guide helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more beautiful destinations from around the world. Got a favorite spot in Prague? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, safe travels, and see you in the next video.